Hello, everyone watching IndieMania, Polygale Network here, and I am pleased today to be joined by Mr. Yannick Belzil, the narrative designer and director over at Tribute Games. Hi, Yannick. How are you doing
Hi,
today?
Paul. I'm doing great, doing great. I just want to say that yes, I am the narrative director because I'm the only narrative person at Tribute Game. So I'm both designer and director. I'm my own boss, my own taskmaster. It's great.
That's a good place to be. Thanks again for being here. I appreciate your time, and I'm looking forward to talking to you all about what Tribute Games has done over the years. Pick your brain a little bit and see if you
Awesome.
have anything unique to share. First up, Tribute Games draws inspiration from classic titles. Can you share a memorable retro game that influenced your work from childhood or teenage years or any time that you thought, playing this game, I want to design one day. I want to be a part of this industry.
You know, I loved video games as a kid, but I grew up north in Abitibi-Témiscamingue, which is a northern part in Quebec, Canada,
Cool.
and actual game development back then seemed so far away. It seemed like it only exclusively happened in Japan. It seemed like another world. So, as a young kid, I was passionate about video games, and I loved playing games. I loved looking at official key art in Nintendo Powers or on Nintendo puffy stickers, like where you could see official art for Zelda, say that you'd never see in an instruction booklet, but you would see them on these weird puffy stickers. So for me, Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past was a big one. It's a
Mm.
big game that really took a big part of my imagination as a kid, especially like sort of the surprise of saving Zelda so early and then being thrown into the dark world. All that stuff is gameplay forward, but narratively, it felt really exciting and game changing as I was discovering the game. So that I would say that's one of the big ones. And when I started becoming a narrative designer, like I just went back to Legend of Zelda a bunch of times, A Link to the Past a bunch of times, and tried to figure out, oh, why did this game made me feel a certain way why when say the ending, why does it make me feel a certain way? So I would keep replaying it and rewatching it and try to figure out how to communicate some sort of ideas or feelings to the players, but without getting in the way of the gameplay and stuff like that. So that was a big one for me.
That's really cool. Zelda definitely hits home with me. Actually, look at this. You mentioned The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, and here is the world's first Legend of Zelda themed pool. As you can see, Link is based off of the 16-bit sprite mosaic from A Link to the Past, but I chose the color scheme of The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, and overall, this is what I came up with. I used symbolism like white coping because the Temple of Time was white, and gray within it because that was the Temple of Time's alternate colors. What do you think? I just need to ask you real quick. What do you think of this?
I think it's pretty rad. I think it's pretty rad. Also, I feel like having the Triforce in your pool maybe.
What do you think of this?
I think it's pretty rad. I think it's pretty rad. Also, I feel like having the Triforce in your pool maybe invites actual fairies to appear in your pool and being refreshed and getting your hearts up whenever you'll go for a dip in that pool. So I think that's a great feature for a pool to have.
I like the thought of that. Thank you. I appreciate that. I didn't draw my own parallels to, maybe fairies coming around, but I definitely will have a little bit of a boosted energy when I go in for sure. So thanks. All right. Let's talk about pixel art passion. Your
Mhm.
games primarily feature pixel art, sprites, and animations. What draws you to this aesthetic, and how does Tribute Games keep it fresh in modern titles?
Well, what drew us towards pixel art is basically it's the stuff that we grew up on as kids. Like that's how we discovered video games for us as kids. It's Nintendo sprites, it's Super Nintendo sprites, it's Genesis sprites, it's all that stuff to me feels purely iconically video games, and it's like that for a lot of our employees who also have gray in their beards, much like myself. But you
That's
know what?
seasoning. That's experience.
Exactly.
You
But
know?
you know what? It's funny. We're getting younger staff members,
Yeah,
and
I
for
was gonna
them
ask
now,
about
the
that.
the retro stuff, it's early PlayStation, it's low poly stuff, and they get really excited about that stuff. And for
Mm.
them, that's what I guess iconic video game language is for them, because that's what they encountered first as kids. But yeah, for us, it was pixel art, and back then, like when the company was founded, like 12 years ago or so. Now it's amazing to see that there's so much wonderful pixel art happening in video games, especially like in indie stuff. Like there's a great wide variety of pixel art, but like 10, 12, 13 years ago, not as much. It felt like even more of a big statement to want to do pixel art games, which is was part of the mission of tribute games. Like that's what we like, that's what we want to pay homage for. And back then there was very little of that, so that was part of a calling card for us. As to how do we keep it fresh or keep it new, um, it's specifically that sometimes we get to work with pixel art, use the fun, poppy, cartoony language of pixel art, but we get to use it in a bigger way that it was used than when we were kids. Like we get to do animations with way more frames,
Mhm.
or which allows us to have characters with more character, bosses that feel even more bigger and more impressive. Like I feel like pixel art somewhere is a type of artwork where you can really see the the handiwork and the care that was made into making the animations,
Yeah.
and we're and by putting even more effort or craft into these, I feel like we make it seem, if not entirely new, at least maybe a bit fresher than it might have been from what stuff people seen from 10 years ago or even 20 years ago.
Yeah, beautifully said, and I agree, and that's one of the things that I appreciate that Tribute Games does is, I was born in 1983, so my early systems were the Nintendo Entertainment System,
Mm-hmm.
Super NES, playing Sega Genesis, going into that era of Nintendo 64 and PlayStation when everything kind of changed. But, that was what I experienced as a teenager, but as an early child, it was that 8-bit, 16-bit era.
Mm-hmm.
Even my old TI 94A semi-computer gaming console. That was early pixel art. So one of the things you do that's just awesome is taking an old style that's really timeless that you could see and care for the individual masonry, if you will. If you see a nice brick paved road, you appreciate that. You know how much time it took and putting spacers in between things and all of the care and the mortar. And that's what pixel art gaming is, but you have the modern conventions of realizing things a little bit bigger, like you said, with, more detail, more animations in there. Uh, just a lot of fun and craftsmanship. So that's
Mm-hmm.
awesome. And that is kind of funny that you said, as Tribute Games goes from being a 2012 studio to 2024 and beyond, new people you hire, old school is going to be a little bit different for them. But I think pixel art will never go away. It's a timeless, distinctive look, and I'm all for it. I hope that you do well, and then the whole subgenre of that art style continues.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I want to talk a little bit about Panzer Paladin because it
Yes.
combines mechs and demonic foes, and that's an interesting crossover. How did you all create such an interesting setting?
I think I was not there for all of Panzer Paladin, because I became a freelancer for a while, but I came
Mhm.
back in near the end. But one thing I can speak of about Panzer Paladin, and a lot of what we like attribute games is. Again, it's paying homage to how primal and iconic a lot of early pixelated titles feels like. There's something like, especially like say in the initial Castlevania games,
Mm-hmm.
that the fact that you, you're almost just fighting the universal monsters. Like Dracula's the big one, but you get to fight a lot of classic monsters. And if you look at some Castlevania box art, like Simon almost looks like Conan. So
Yeah,
it's two primal ideas, and I would say that that was the idea, a bit of the idea for Panzer Paladin, is
that's cool.
having that fun like 80s anime mech uh, pilot piloted by driven by a pilot that also had that gumption of 30s or 90s anime characterization, and have these aspects fight fun, iconic monsters. Because there's, again, to go back on the pixel art, there's always something interesting and reinterpreting a classic design through the matrix of the pixel art. Like you could give, let's say, a certain ratio of sprite size to different artists and ask them like, draw me a mummy as
Yeah.
a villain, and you would get, from the same grid of pixels, you would get different weird shapes of mummies, different interpretations, how the bandages are made. So I feel like for us and for the artists on Panzer Paladin, there was a fun of trying to, oh, what kind of Sasquatch could we draw as an
Mm-hmm.
enemy, and the same reinterpretation for these different types of monsters and icons from video games. Like there's something about a lot of the monsters from Panzer Paladin that feel a bit like Ninja Gaiden bosses, but n- not as gruesome, that have more of a cartoony pleasantness to them, but also a bit of, the Gargoyles Quest Capcom
Yeah.
type of vibe as well, which is also action horror, but still sort of pleasant. Still like, oh, I could watch a funny cartoon about these characters.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that was the idea of Panzer Paladin, is taking these tropes and find fun ways to reinterpret them. And also there's just the idea of mech versus demons that felt like really primal and easy to understand as well.
Yeah. I think you achieved it. I felt that. And speaking of which, if I'm not mistaken, you have something for IndieMania viewers today. I think some type of codes that you're distributing. Is that right?
Yes, Panzer Paladin Code will be distributed to people for IndieMania. I believe we have 10 of those, so
Yes.
I hope they find good homes and that people will enjoy this awesome mech on monster action.
Awesome. So those of you watching, hopefully you're watching live because these codes aren't going to be there forever. In the comment section, let us know that you would like a code, and you will be randomly drawn to have one of 10 codes for Panzer Paladin, specifically on the Xbox platform. So thank you
Yeah,
again, Yannick, for that.
it's our pleasure. It recently just came out
Mm-hmm.
on Xbox and PlayStation. Like it used to just be on Steam and on the Switch, but now recently, um, Grit found its way to these new platforms, and we're really happy to see the game getting out there.
That's awesome. Okay, the next one. This one is really near and dear to my heart because I am as big of a cowabunga kid as they come. Turtle Power. Teenage
Yes.
Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge came out 2 years ago and was greatly received. What challenges did you face in capturing the essence of the classic TMNT beat 'em up? And you can see my Michelangelo is right there,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
chilling on top of my own IP. I wrote a book some time ago called Lisek's Great Adventure, which is a children's book that I finally wrote as an adult, but the thought for it was built when I was a child. But yeah, I've got my Ninja
Awesome.
Turtle Michelangelo there, a bunch of turtles over here, and some turtles down below. But I am a big cowabunga kid. We could probably have a full hour long conversation on just TMNT, but I want the fans watching to hear more from you than me regarding this.
Well, there were some challenges, but I can say that it was challenging to make sure that the game exists and happens and is well made. But everyone was so passionate about making that game, and for most of us, it has a really strong place into our hearts from our childhood. The first time I played the arcade game was like a really important moment for me as a kid, and one that ended up reverberate through my adult life thanks to this project. So the challenge was really to make sure that the game works in a technical aspect. But I guess also the bigger challenge is that we had to make sure that our younger selves were pleased with the results and that they were not embarrassed, and that if they were able to time travel and see us in the future, they would not say like, "Oh, you guys messed it up. You had
No
that
way.
and you messed it up." But it didn't happen. We're really happy with it. So the greater challenges were just to make sure it was as great as we wanted it to be. And that took a lot of hard work, but it was all done with a lot of passion. But there are so many things that goes into making these games. Are making the games, like working with our partners at .mu and Nickelodeon to make sure that everyone is satisfied with it. And then there are many things like the technical aspect. Like one thing that we got a lot of great comments are about is how, say, the online multiplayer works really well. Well, that's something that people might not think about. They might think that online multiplayer is just like a dongle that we plug in the end, but it's
Probably
not.
not.
It's no, that's it has to be made and finessed by our awesome programmers, and they really knocked it out of the park because it was really important for us that the game was uh, a fun multiplayer thing that people can come together playing it the same way that the turtles come together to fight the Foot Clan. So there are always like technical challenges that we wanted the game to be as good as we knew it could be. And given the response, it feels like we succeeded. So we're really really happy about that.
No, it was really well captured. And, I played through the game a full two times, once solo to get that experience, and then the other time, which was more zany, more wild, more fun, which was with my wife, my son, and my daughter. So we played four players through the whole thing. And a couple of times in that summer, not for the whole game, but a couple of times my mom and dad happened to come over. So we're like, we are taking advantage of six-player TMNT. And it was a blast. My parents aren't, giant gamers, but they definitely remember me being a kid growing up, Turtle Power High 3 all the time. So I think it just hit so many different audiences well. So many people that I've talked to love the title. Uh, and one of the things I want to say, I mean, there's a lot of stories I could say, but one of the things I wanted to say is shout outs, bravo to the idle animation for Donatello. When he turns around and plays on the Game Boy like device, it was so cool because he's the techie. He's the one that probably would have a Game Boy or something like that with him. Uh,
When I saw that
Real
animation for
cool.
the first time, because back then it was, it was everyone had to stay at home, and we all work on the game through Discord. So it was sort of we made the game a lot separately apart. And so we had like the artist channel where new animation would be dropped, like say, "Oh, I've done this, I've done that." Like the first time I saw that Donnie animation, I was like, this
Uh,
is pretty good. People are
that
gonna like that because I'm loving it right now.
that's cool for you as someone on the project, but also who is a fan. And the fact that, like you said, not everybody knows every step of the way until it's done and being submitted, that you got to honestly be surprised, kind of like
Mhm.
us, So that kind of makes me happy that you thought that was cool because you didn't know necessarily that was going to be done, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I knew that there was an idol, but
Yeah.
otherwise,
But just what? Yeah.
yeah.
As I will say, share, I should say, I will share one memory that's a fun one because this is just a cool opportunity to talk to a fellow Ninja Turtle fan like this. And you worked on the game, so it's great.
Yeah.
Uh, as a kid, I mean, video games and martial arts have run parallel my entire life. And as a kid, when I was in martial arts classes, I would run, jump, and then cowabunga over the rope. My instructor would hold one side and another adult would hold the other side. Sometimes like my dad, for instance. The instructor would say, Paul, what is cowabunga? That's from Ninja Turtles. I don't know Ninja Turtles. Yukia. Okay. I run around again. All the kids are running, yeah, over this rope, doing a side air kick, and me, cowabunga, just over and over. And then eventually, stop that. And I kept on doing, yeah, cowabunga. I couldn't stop it, but that's just a part of who I was then. And nowadays, outside of the video game industry, I am a university professor in Los Angeles and I teach martial arts there: karate, taekwondo, tai chi, personal defense, several fitness classes. So I remember when this game came out, I was telling my students, anybody play Shredder's Revenge? Oh, yeah, some of them did. I'm like, well, let me just tell you a little story. So now I'm with these adults replicating the story from my youth while telling them
You
about this
allow
game.
you allow cowabungas in your classes?
I allowed the cowabungas, and on the final exam, I had some people, these, primarily like 18 and 22-year-olds shout out cowabunga or in their essay write it, and like been playing Shredder's Revenge by the way too. So really cool how sometimes life comes full
Mhm.
circle where turtle kid, martial arts kid, video game kid, and then all these years later getting to interview Tribute Games, who made one of my favorite titles from 2 years ago, and I hope it continues to have success going forward.
Well, it's we're really happy with it. We had a lot of fun, and we had a lot of great when we meet people from the media or um, personally. Like I work on a bunch of games, but it's the first time when that came out, when Turtles came out. Like it's the first time I would get like old friends and acquaintances from Facebook, like sending me pictures of them playing the game.
So
Sometimes,
cool.
quite often, with their kids, and we were really happy with the game. And but we did not expect that it would be like it would be something that would bring together generations, and that a lot of people, like a
Totally.
lot of parents, like share their love of the turtles through the game by playing with their kids and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And after the game came out, when I went to my sisters at Christmas, then I played with my nephews and they really enjoyed it. And so yeah, it's really fun. And also for me, as a cycle, like I mentioned earlier, like playing the Turtles arcade game for the first time was like mind blowing, because it felt so much like the cartoon to me, but in playable video game form, that it really imprinted on me as a successful adaptation of a cartoon, of something that is not born in video games and adapted into a specific video game form. That when we started working on Shredder's Revenge, then like I knew that I had to like slam the toothpaste tube and get as much of all of the Ninja Turtles toothpaste out of it,
Yeah.
like, and so it could be
The
all in
ooze.
the game. Yeah, yeah,
Get the
all of the
ooze.
ooze. I had to break the canister and make sure
Yes.
there was
Every
no
last
ooze.
drop of ooze.
But you know what? There's so much ooze that I feel like we got a great deal of it in the game.
You got DLC
Uh,
ooze too.
we got DLC ooze. Yeah, that's what for some remaining ooze. Like, who knows? Maybe someday we'll get to do another one
Yeah.
and find new ooze or put remaining ooze in there. But no, it's still like a really a great game to have been part of, and a really important of both my young and adult life. So that's
Very
great.
cool. Very cool. Uh, Regarding published titles, you published Zenobia's first title in
Yes.
2020, Steel Assault. What were the
Yes.
challenges in that endeavor?
The thing with publishing titles is that, well, we have published a whole bunch of our own titles, like Panzer Pound we mentioned earlier. Uh, uh, Shredder's Revenge is published by the wonderful peeps at Dotemu. So the thing is, well, first you have to find the actual tiles. Our wonderful marketing manager Eric takes care of a lot of that. So he gets a lot of titles sent to him and keys and stuff, and he with documents. And I guess he plays a lot of them, and sometimes we try them out with him or whatever, and then he chooses and we talk with our bosses. So it's really finding what fits for tribute games, work what works with the company, and then it's figuring out like, oh, what's from our own experience that we can add or can offer to a game that we want to publish. So it's either ideas about the gameplay, it might be about feedback on art, it might be like a whole bunch of stuff. So it's entering into that relationship with the game that we want to publish. That's one of the big parts of it.
Oh, cool. That kind of goes into my next question a little bit because I did speak with Eric Lafontaine also. So I guess that's kind of his role, but what criteria do you or does he consider when selecting projects to publish? Kind of goes into the
Uh,
last question a little bit, but curious.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, again, it's finding something that feels right for the company. Like it feels like on the simplest term, like if you stack all of the titles one next to the others, like does it feel like it makes sense to be there? Is it so if you look at Steel Assault, again, there's the pixel art, there's it's also like um a really modern twist on classic game structures. So you have a lot of the platforming, the Bionic Commando aspect of it. You have, but it's made with such vivid and modern art direction, and also a lot of frenzied gameplay that feels more modern. So it's modern twist on a classic idea is also part of tribute games. So I would say that is part of how we choose these ideas.
Hmm. All right. I think last but not least, this is a little bit of a put you on the spot kind of questions. Future adventures.
Mhm.
What exciting projects or genres can fans expect from tribute games in the coming years? Feel free to speak as much as you can if you want to full on reveal something cool. If it's a tease or anything to hype fans up is totally understandable.
I can't say anything about what we're working on right now, but fans or people who have enjoyed our games should feel really happy that we are working on something. We're not resting on our laurels. Sorry, that one's a harder one to put through the French Canadian accent. Sorry. So yeah, we're not just kicking back. We're working on new projects, trying to see like we don't know what's coming up next. Are we going to publish a new title for someone else? Are we working on brand new ideas? I can only tell you that we are working really hard on stuff, and that we're really happy with it. We're really excited about it. I think that when these projects will be announced, there's going to be interest for it. And like I mentioned earlier, like we have newer employees
Mhm.
because we're really lucky that the success of TMNT has allowed us to like have to grow the team a bit. So we're a slightly bigger team to work on the whatever projects are coming out next, and we're pretty excited. We're in a very lucky spot that the company is doing well and that we have the right size of a team to keep it manageable and sustainable and keep making games. So the future is looking pretty great right now. We're really happy and we look forward to be able to announce them,
Oh,
to share those to where we're looking forward for the whatever ideas we have next to be in a form that we can finally share them with people.
okay, that's super cool. I mean, I respect you can't give it away yet, but I am looking forward to it. I have faith in your team. Unless if this question
Mhm.
spoils anything potentially of what you can't talk about, hypothetically, um, what's an IP that is out there? I mean, in your wildest imagination that you would love to work with if you want to talk about it, be it Zelda or Mario or something from movies or comics, anything, unless if that could possibly,
Uh,
ruin what you're working on and you'd rather not say it.
I can tell you that like the company was founded so we could create our own new ideas.
Hmm.
But back then there was our saying was say we would say like there's two things we could never say no to, and that's TMNT and Mega Man.
Awesome. Oh, so you
So
got the TMNT.
so we got TMNT. Like getting a bite at the Mega Man apple would
Oh,
be really really exciting. That would be really awesome because I feel like we'll have a lot of mega fans on the team, and again, like to me, like the ending of Mega Man 2, and speaking as narrative designer, the ending of Mega Man 2 is sort of strangely sad and haunting,
mhm.
but they barely tell you anything. It's all the symbolism of his helmet left behind and the sad music, and that to me, that's always been on top of me loving the Astro Boy slash Sentai aesthetic of Mega Man. That sort of wistful ending has always stuck with me, and I'm like, oh, if we could do a Mega Man game and give it that sort of almost sad ending again, like that would be really really cool.
That
I
could
know
be
that's not.
powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that that ending is not something maybe most people think of when you think of Mega Man, but that's a big one for me. That's one that's I find really exciting. So, Mega Man would be really really cool in video games. As for out there other franchises, like we tend to do a lot of action games, but so that would be counter to what we've done. But I'm a big fan of Doctor Who, and I'm saying like, oh yeah, what trying to figure out a fun, maybe action-based Doctor Who game, that would be like an interesting challenge. If not, no, I think look, asking for both of these, asking the given that I got the chance to work on Turtles, I feel like asking the Cosmos to work on the other big deal feels it feels almost selfish. So
Yeah,
I'm
but
gonna stay at there. I'm gonna
you
leave
know
it
what?
there.
That's totally okay. You mean it's like this amazing gift as a longtime fan, as a company of fans. You don't want to be too greedy out there, but hey, if you get the opportunity to work with Capcom, I can totally see Tribute Games busting out an amazing Mega Man title. I love that IP, and specifically Mega Man 2. That might have been my first entry into Mega Man, despite it being the second one total.
Yeah, it was
I'm
the
trying
same
to
for
remember
me.
back to if it was my first or if I played Mega Man, the original first, but I have fond memories of that game and the entire franchise, and that includes, Mega Man X and Legends as well. But to see you come up with something these days would be so cool and such a good fit. You know what? Capcom, I'm sure you're watching IndieMania right now. Feel free to reach out to Yannick and Eric from Tribute Games and let's have something go down because I think this is the public birth of an idea that would be tremendous. But with that
Look,
being said, you do have a compilation trailer that you brought with you today for fans to
yes.
see what are some of the titles that you've come up with and that are out now available on respective
Mhm.
shops. So, how about we play that, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, let's go. Okay, that was an awesome look back at several really fun titles over the years of Tribute Games releasing them. Obviously, you have Panzer Paladin, that is a title from a couple of years back that is now available on Xbox. And if you're in the chat, you have the opportunity right now to be one of 10 to get a free code and enjoy the game. So thank you, Yannick, for your time.
My pleasure.
Any last words that you want to give? Maybe something of inspiration to indie developers out there that maybe it's their first game that they're releasing? Because part of IndieMania, what makes it unique is we have successful companies such as yourselves that have been around for a dozen years, and we have some people that are about to show off their first title today. And for anyone else watching out there wondering, gosh, is it worth the effort? It's hard, the hours, the time. Any kind of advice or inspiration might be very beneficial to somebody watching now.
Well, you know what? I do agree that it's a lot of hours and it is quite often hard. But I've worked in the bigger companies before working for Tribute Games, and I'm in Montreal, which is a big video game industry city. A lot of indies, a lot of bigger companies like your Ubisofts or Electronic Arts and stuff like that. Um, the main thing I would say is that if you do independent games, if you are taking it upon yourself to create what you want and you get to do it yourself, and um, once you put your game on the market, well, whatever happens, but while you're making it, you're making all of the decision, and it gets to be a pure expression of what you want to do and what you like in the games, and that's something that you can only do as you're doing it right now. It
Mhm.
would not happen like in a big company. Like you have to uh, talk or listen to different interests and follow certain corporate guidelines. But when you're making indie games, you're making it for yourself, and in a very pure, satisfying way that you won't get anywhere else. And that's something to be cherished. Even if you only do one game, you get to do something that some other people in the industry will never get to do.
Thank you so much for your time, and I
My
wish
pleasure.
the best for Tribute Games in the future. And hopefully, you get some more sales for the titles that you were kind enough to show off today. And for whatever is coming next, may that one be awesome and successful as well.
We hope so. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.